Hi everyone, this is Jennifer Timko. I am here today to show you this card that I created using the new Ruffled Peony Bouquet stamp set that has just been released in the November release from Picket Studios. I decided that I wanted to try a new technique with this stamp, well, new to me at least. I had seen this done by the brilliant Kelly Latavola, and I decided to make my own take on it. So I'm going to start by stamping on some Canson, I think it's MONTVAL watercolor paper, and I'm using this Gina K Amalgam ink, which is supposed to be both watercolor and Copic friendly. So I wanted to give it a bit of a test. So, as with all times when you're stamping on watercolor paper, I do find that it helps to overstamp a few times, and this is where your MISTI is pretty much critical. I don't even know how I would actually stamp without it anymore, but I do overstamp this, I think 3 times here until the image was what I wanted it to be. I do think that this ink dries pretty quickly, but I did set it aside and cleaned up the stamp while I was waiting for it to set. So I went ahead and put this on my watercolor board to start with, and I'm pulling out my swatch that I created using some Daniel Smith watercolor paints. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to pair up some Copic markers to go with my paint colors. So my paint colors are a little bit more extensive than my Copic colors, so I wanted to make sure that I had things that went together. So I kind of grabbed some pairings and looked at my chart to see what was going to be kind of go with colors, and you'll see as I go through on this video I do pull some extra colors to add in when I found that there wasn't enough depth of color or something wasn't quite right. So once I got that settled, I'm just going to show you my paints here really quickly. They're all set up in a palette, and they're just waiting for some more. That is a big palette, but my friend Lydia does some Daniel Smith watercolor splits, so I'm just sitting there preparing for my next split. You can see that there is not a whole lot of rhyme or reason. I don't really think that I'm much of an artist on this, so I'm just pulling some of the color and putting it on the paper in random spots. I'm not really trying to stick with green is on the leaves and pink is on the flowers or anything in particular. It's sort of just wherever I put it. There's no real plan here. In fact, when I was videoing this, I was sort of hoping it was going to actually turn into something. So you get to see me kind of experiment as we go along. But I tried to make sure that I put colors close to each other that weren't going to get muddy together, because I didn't really take a whole lot of time in between to let things dry. I just kept applying color. You can see up there I had the blue and the purple kind of started to blend together, and that's fine. In fact, if I wanted to really highlight that, I could have pulled out some purple markers and really gone with that a little bit, but I sort of stuck to plan here and just kept adding in. I filled in with some of the yellow and put it around where it seemed like there was too much green. So it really is just kind of a get into your paint and play kind of project, which I don't know if you're familiar with the Daily Marker 30-day coloring challenge, but it is run by Kathy Rakusin, and she encourages people just to spend a few minutes every single day for 30 days coloring. And I think we can agree that for so many people, coloring is just an art therapy. All right, so I have gone back. I didn't show adding in a little bit more layering, and I did some splattering here too, and now I'm heat setting and removing this from my board here. I just used some painter's tape here. I know that there are probably more specific things to do. Just be careful. I also leave some margins there that I know I'm going to cut away in case the tape does stick. And now I'm pretty much ready to start adding Copic. So I didn't have any problems with this transferring over to my Copic nibs, but I don't know really how good this is for them. So if you're going to do tons and tons of blending, this might not be the technique for you. This is just me kind of flicking on color. And you'll see that I ended up adding in a third color here. These are my YGs. It's a YG03, YG25, and YG17. And all I'm really trying to do is put the shading in like I would do if I was actually just coloring this completely with Copics, or if I was trying to actually paint this with watercolors. So just some shadowing, some depth of color, not really trying to change the look as much as accent what I did with the paints and pull the colors a little bit stronger. So with this 30-day coloring challenge, I think it's one of the best things that I've ever found, because it really does kind of force me to sit down and play. And, you know, I think for a lot of us stampers, we get projects in mind, we have things that we feel like we need to get done, and we don't allow ourselves just the time to sit down and goof around with something, allow it to not work. And this is the perfect time. You can pick something small, you can work on things. I have done things where I work on it a little bit every single day and only give it maybe 5 minutes because that's all I have. And just share that. And the whole community associated with this coloring challenge is really remarkable. Everyone's really encouraging, everyone's cheering each other on. Everyone's art is in a different stage. People are in a different part of their process. And I think it's really wonderful when you encourage people to just grow and experiment and not worry so much of, does it look perfect? Is it Pinterest worthy? Even is it Instagram worthy? I just, just go with it and see what happens. And if it's not perfect, then just learn from it and, do something different the next time. Because really it's just one little project and it's not the end of the earth. And I think for me, I have a tendency to be super type A, and I treat each project as like it's the end all be all, and if I make a mistake, it's a catastrophe. And that's really maybe not the right way to approach creative work, but it's sort of my nature, is what I do. So I love that this always encourages me to go outside my box, to try something, to go back and look at things that I have pinned and wanted to try, or some technique that has to do with coloring. So I'm just continuing along. I have now my blue-green palette that I was working on there. For the colors, it's blue-green, BG57, BG72, and BG75. And I'll have all these colors listed on the bottom of the video as well. And now I'm coming in with my yellows. And I started off with just the Y06 and the Y17, and I realized pretty quickly that I needed something that had a little more gold to it. So I added in the YR24, which does have a tendency to look a little browner, but when you combine it in and blend it in with these other Ys, especially the 17 or maybe even Y38, it does tend to have a gold look, and it pulls the gold from that paint and makes it look like it balances with those other, the brighter pink and the blue. I like just kind of looking around. You see that I flip the page around and around. For me, I don't like to color upside down, so I flip the page, but then I come back to the viewpoint that I'm going to put on the project just so I can take a look and see where the balance is, or where I need to add color, or what looks off or empty. And it's just kind of a time-consuming process. I think over the course of this project, it maybe took me a couple of hours, maybe. I did walk away from it a couple of times because I have kids, and that means I have to walk away from things a couple of times on any given day when I'm at home. So again, I think that's one of the joys of a project like this, is you can just kind of come and go from it, and it doesn't have to be something that you're just going to sit down and finish all in one sitting. And I do enjoy projects like that, especially when I feel like I'm just creating to create. Now, I tried this, and once I realized it worked, of course, I immediately threw it on a project for Picket Fence, but it was just fun to sit down and kind of try to see if it was going to work. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more with this Picket Fence Studios release. I don't know if you've looked at this November release. Now these bouquets, this is the Ruffled Peony Bouquet stamp set again, but she has a number of bouquet stamp sets over there in her shop, and they're really fantastic. They're these big images that allow for you to, you can use just a part of it, you can use the whole image on a project, but the artwork on them is really beautiful. And I will confess that I do love a flower, and anyone who's watched me stamp for any period of time knows how much I love a flower. So, these big, bold images are just fantastic for me. I know there were going to be ones that I come back to for things just like this, where I just want to sit down and color and have time to create. Those are my favorite things. When I'm just coloring, it's going to be a flower pretty much. So I really do enjoy this. So as I finished this up, I went ahead and cut down the card to the A2 size, and all I did was add in a few sequins and a sentiment from the same stamp set. I hope you enjoyed being with me today. I very much appreciate you stopping by, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day.